Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is being accused of something pretty devastating, and it's being and it has to do with campaign corruption, campaign donations, which for the most part, we've legalized that kind of bribery and it's totally fine based on our laws. But what he's being accused of doing here is essentially pressuring members of university boards of trustees to give him money or else he won't reappoint them. So this was an accusation that was lodged against him by the current state agriculture commissioner, Nikki Fried. She's planning on running against him when he runs for re-election, so full disclosure on that. But it seems like there's some truth to her allegations. She says this: our current boards of trustees across the state were required to give a campaign contribution to Ron DeSantis in the amount of $100,000. And if they didn't give him the campaign contribution, they were not reappointed to the boards. That is what we are dealing with here in the state of Florida with this governor. Now, again, it is unfortunately perfectly legal to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to various politicians and then in return get all of these appointments, right? But in this case, threatening various people with their positions unless they give you money, that is not legal. Okay, so DeSantis's appointments are stacked with his biggest donors. And the boards of trustees are no different. DeSantis's corruption, according to a campaign spokesperson for Fried, knows no limits, even when it means compromising on Floridians' schools. And is there any truth to this? Well, when you look at some of these donations, it looks like there could be. For instance, at least 9 current members on boards of trustees across Florida's university system have made donations to DeSantis' 2022 campaign or other state GOP, either in their own name, through their company, or via spouse, according to state campaign finance records. So I think the best example is the University of South Florida's Leslie Muma. His wife actually gave $100,000 to DeSantis's campaign this year.
Nikki Fried says he asked for $100,000, and then look at that, he got $100,000. Probably a wild coincidence. So there's several layers of corruption here in the case of DeSantis, and he's done this many times. So when the vaccine first came out, you remember there were the stories where he got it to communities that had his largest donors first. He went out of his way to make sure they got the vaccine. After his rich donors were vaccinated, he then turned around and said, come on, who needs the vaccine and the mask and stuff? Let's not take any precautions. Who cares, right? But after all of his donors were taken care of. And this whole system is corrupt. No, you shouldn't make the board of trustees of universities weirdo, corrupt people who gave bribes to politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and now, of course, leave it to DeSantis to take it to the next level and go, no, if you don't give it to me, I'm gonna kick you off the board. Which, by the way, you're such a knucklehead. That's illegal. You don't need, there's so many ways to get legal bribes, but power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Now, here are some other examples. Remember, there were professors who were supposed to testify in these lawsuits against the state's handling of coronavirus data. And before they were set to testify, all of a sudden, the universities prevented them from doing so. In late October, it became public that multiple professors from the University of Florida were restricted from participating in lawsuits against the state. University of Florida employees were told verbally not to criticize Governor Ron DeSantis or University of Florida policies related to COVID-19 in media interactions. And now there's an investigation in regard to that censorship, and we'll see where it ends up. But it is fascinating that these professors were essentially told, no, you're not allowed to testify in these lawsuits. You're not allowed to criticize Ron DeSantis. And honestly, it really doesn't surprise me. And to be sure, what we've seen with Governor Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida is just this firm grip on intellectual freedom, on the ability to get accurate and critical information out there to people so they can keep themselves safe during the coronavirus pandemic. And while people are literally dying in that state as a result of his corrupt leadership, he's deciding to focus all of his attention on anti-woke legislation, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, he's done several things against freedom of speech. They're Orwellian. They say our biggest issue is freedom of speech. We want to be able to say racist things. Then they turn around and go, COVID numbers, make sure the professors shut up. They're not allowed to talk about it at all. Okay, and now on race, no, we're gonna send vigilantes after teachers if they ever teach about racism. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.